Good morning, everybody. I want to talk to you for just a couple of minutes here about one of my favorite things, animals. You guys know the three most important things in my life is serving God, loving my wife, and playing with my dogs. I heard a survey this morning on the radio that 98% of people that sleep with their dogs are more socially well-adjusted. And I'm like, that makes sense. Some people were saying that when you have your dog in your bed at night and you snuggle up with them, that sometimes if they toss and turn, that breaks up your rhythm of sleep. And, you know, it's not good because you got to get those many hours of rest in there. But it's not really accurate. They actually did a scientific study. And those people that share that bonding time with their pet are actually better rested and happier. And honestly, I mean, how can you not be happy when you're cuddling up with a puppy? Life is good in that regard. Those dogs take care of us. I mean, come on, we see service dogs all the time. You hear about it on TV, or on the radio, in the airport. People are trying all different kinds of service animals, not just dogs. They're trying to get their pet giraffe or something on an airplane. It's crazy out there because animals make us feel better. They help us become more well-adjusted people. They make us happier. And they help us to control our emotions. Like our anger. It's kind of hard to get mad when you're holding a puppy or a kitty cat. I like kitties too. Not so much cats because then they got a bad attitude. But when they're kittens, I like those. And really all animals, except for snakes. They don't count because they're not really animals. But Jesus tells us, in the New Testament, Jesus tells us to take care of our animals even on the Sabbath. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with the rules back then, they were not allowed to work on the Sabbath. That's like Sunday for us. It's technically Saturday, but for us it's Sunday. They were not allowed to do anything. Even if their donkey or their cow or whatever fell into a ditch, they had to let it lay there, and it would probably die. But Jesus said, let's take care of them. Go and get it out of the ditch. Help them out. Take care of them. So that's a direct command right from Jesus himself to take care of our animals. And even way back in the Old Testament, when God was giving all the rules and regulations out, he said that a righteous person will have regard for an animal's life. You don't just say, whatever. You take care of them. In fact, it goes all the way back to the very beginning of the Bible, the book of Genesis. And that means beginning. Human beings' very first assignment was to take care of the animals in the Garden of Eden. That's the first thing that God decided to have us do. When he created Adam and Eve and he put them in the Garden of Eden, the first order he gave them was to take care of the animals. In fact, they got lucky. They got to name all the animals too, which I would like to do that. I think I would have named the dog Alfredo or something, but that's what they got to do because God told them to take care of the animals. We have dominion over them, caring for them. All right? Dominion doesn't mean dominate. Doesn't mean like, I'm in charge, I'm the boss. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. It's a responsibility that we have for taking care of them. How many of you guys heard about the jet skier the other day? Guy went out jet skiing just before that big, huge rainstorm came over in Newport Richie. And he saw a bird caught in a net. And so he jumped off of his jet ski and swam over to rescue the bird. And then the storms came and washed his jet ski away, and he was like stranded. He got the bird free, but then he was stranded, and he swam to shore, and he was saved later on. But the guy was willing to risk his life to help not even his own pet, I mean, you know, I'll do anything for my dogs, and you will for your pets too. But this is for an animal that didn't even belong to this guy. And yet he was willing to risk his own life. Now some people say, yeah, I wouldn't have done that for some strange bird. Stupid bird, get caught in a net, he deserves it. But that's not what God tells us to do. God tells us to care for all of the animals. So, I hope that you enjoyed our guest speakers for today. And I just wanted to bring that little bit of a lesson to you because those things just happened this week and it was fresh on my mind. Remember, even those of you that are petless, we're praying for you to get a pet. And remember to love and take care of your pets because they love and take care of us right back.
All right, we have Kindred Spirits Animal Sanctuary here today. Has anyone ever been there? I should see a few hands because I know I took a group of kids there about a year to 2 years ago. Who was with me? Haley Levine, I know you were with me. There was a group of kids with me, and I don't see any of your hands up. All right. Lucy, I saw your hand up. All right, I do know that a group of us have been there before. It's really a cool sanctuary. We went there like, maybe it was 3 years ago at this point. They moved to a new facility last year that's even double the size of the one they were at before. They were about 2 hours away from here, and they drove here today to come and talk to you about what they do. And let's please give a round of applause and a welcome to Logan and Tony. Come on. Yeah, you both have a mic.
Thank you. So I'm Logan and this is Tony.
Hello.
And we run Kindred Spirits Sanctuary, which is located, as Michelle said, about 2 hours from here. A little bit about Kindred Spirits. We opened in 2003, so we've been rescuing abused, abandoned, and neglected farm animals since then. So we've been around about 16, 17 years now, and we have a lot of amazing animals. Currently, we have about 166 animals who live there. So we take care of them every day, and we're going to tell you a little bit about those particular animals and some fun and interesting facts about animals in general. Before we start that, we're going to talk a little bit about what a sanctuary is. Some of you may have never been to a sanctuary. A sanctuary is a place that takes in animals who other people have either mistreated or can't care for anymore, or they have some sort of physical disability. So there aren't a lot of places for them to go. So we take in all those kinds of animals from across the country. We have animals from California, from this farmer from Maine, who have come to us for some particular reason. You will see a lot of them in this presentation today. And we also, as a sanctuary, really focus on education. That's something that's very important to us. We want to give people the opportunity to meet animals, to come up close and personal with them. If you've been out, you may get licked by a cow. You can rub a pig's belly and they fall over and they snore, and it's really cute. So it's a good opportunity, and that's something that we're very passionate about, which is why we're excited to come talk to you today.
Has anybody out there ever actually pet a cow? What about pigs? You ever held a chicken? Isn't it crazy how soft they are? We're going to talk about some of that.
So we're going to go through a couple different types of animals that we have in the sanctuary, and we're going to start today with sheep and goats. And we're going to tell you a little bit about sheep and goats in general. So both of them live about 12 to 14 years, so that means if we take in a young baby lamb or little goat kid, we expect to have them for about 14 years, which is a long time, as long as you spend in school. A really interesting fact, sheep and goats know their names. So our residents who have any sort of physical issue, they're put on pain medication if they need it, they get all kinds of special attention. But when they get their medicine, they always get it in a peanut butter sandwich because no one wants to eat just plain medicine. So in the mornings, when you go out with peanut butter sandwiches, there's the field with the 22 goats in it, and you can call someone's name, and that particular someone will come running up to you. They absolutely know who they are, and they know when they're in trouble. They also know, like, our tone of voice, like, you know, when your parents are like, hey, or, excuse you, what did you just do? They absolutely know that. This is Oscar. He especially knows his name. Oscar's one of our troublemakers. He likes to eat shoelaces, and he likes to know everything you have on you all the time. So if you have your keys, he's chewing those, he chews your shirt. And Oscar actually came to us from Miami, Florida, so he's from further south. He was found abandoned by the interstate, and he was very, very sick. So a very kind homeless man actually took him in and was doing everything he could to care for him before he came to us. It was a really sweet story of someone who didn't have much, trying to provide for someone else.
See, a lot of people always hear that goats will eat anything. It's not true. Actually, goats are very, very picky.
But they'll try anything.
But they will try anything. So like if you guys ever came and we would give you a tour and we would go in with the goats, I would tell you make sure you don't have any treats or anything in your pockets. Watch your shoelaces. If you have necklaces, go ahead and tuck them in because they will try anything and they're very, very curious. Sheep, not so much, but goats.
And so this is Ruby. This is Oscar's best friend. So just like people, animals often form very close relationships with each other. What they're doing right here, they're headbutting. This is actually playing for them because neither one of them is dominant in their group. It can be that they're trying to assert dominance, but it can also just be play. And that's what's happening here. So these two are almost always together. You almost never see Ruby without Oscar, Oscar without Ruby. Very, very best friends. A study was done recently that showed that sheep actually can recognize up to 50 different faces, and they recognize them in photographs. So if you take a sheep away from their family and you present them with faces in a photograph of other sheep, they will actually call out to the sheep who they recognize in a photo. They're very, very smart. And they form really close relationships. Another one of these two always together. This is Hannah on the left and Ziggy on the right. So one thing that we get to see a lot in the sanctuary is how close everyone becomes. Ruby's popular, by the way. She has a lot of best friends, which is very sweet. But we get to really enjoy watching these animals make friendships and keep their families together. That's another very important thing for us. This group here, all these sheep are all a family. This is Dad in front and Papa. And then right behind him is one of the moms, Hadley. Right behind her is another mom, and then all the kids. So we really try to make sure that families get to stay together. They can actually bond very closely with other species. So our sheep herd right now has almost all sheep in it, and it has a couple of one-offs. We have a cow in there named Fiona who was born blind. She has no eyes. And then this is Ramsey, and he lives in that group as well. And he really likes sheep, and he really likes pigs, and he really likes cows. And he likes chickens. He's okay with chickens. But he does not like at all goats. And he is a goat. He is petrified of goats. Every time we try to introduce him to someone, he gets scared. But he loves every other kind of animal. So he actually helps us with Fiona. So just like people, we try to help each other. Ramsey helps Fiona, who has no eyes. That's her best friend. She is always next to him, and if he goes off and does something and looks up and realizes that she's moving and she's lost, he will run over to her. So she kind of follows him around everywhere based on him touching her or hearing him move around. It's a really beautiful friendship. We'll talk a little bit about cows. Cows have lived over 20 years. They live a really long time. And we have a couple right now that are in their late teens, about 17 to 18. So they can live to be very, very old. Cows lick each other, and if you've ever been around cows, you'll see this as a sign of affection. This is Luna and Henry. And Henry licks Luna all day long. I don't see her licking him that much, but he really loves her. So he will follow her around and just make sure that she knows she's well loved. And it's really sweet to see. And if you haven't been licked by a cow, I will tell you a fun fact. That tongue is really, really rough. It feels like sandpaper. And it kind of hurts after they lick you a lot.
Have you ever been licked by a cat? Anyone? Now imagine a cat tongue about this long and about that thick.
It's very rough.
Yeah, it's very rough.
Very At the sanctuary, our animals live together, but sometimes certain animals have to go off for vet visits off of our property. And one of those guys is in this next slide, Brownie, the big guy there. He recently had to go on a trip to the veterinarian. And his buddy Rosie here, and actually all of our cattle, when you put them in the trailer, they start crying. And they cry as you drive away. Yes, ma'am. Rosie is a girl, and Brownie's a boy. So they actually really, really care about each other. I'll keep talking until you get it. So we see that not as often, since we do tend to keep families together, but
She has a fish friend that makes her very happy.
oh, so these two, just like you have a fish that's your friend and makes you happy, they make each other happy. And they really form very close bonds with each other. Another thing that is sad to talk about, but is reality, when one of the cows passes away, they actually hold funerals for each other. So the other cattle will surround them, and they cry over them, and spend a lot of time licking them. And it's actually a time that us as a staff, we have to be really, really respectful of that. They won't let us close to their family member until they're ready. So we have to watch for a lot of those signs, but they definitely form really, really close relationships.
With Brownie there, Brownie's probably one of the biggest cows you've ever seen. He stands about this tall at the shoulder. He's so big that when we took him to the vet, they don't have a big enough place to actually work on him.
They have an excellent long-term memory. So another recent scientific study was just done and published about the way that the cows are treated when they're babies, the little calves. If you have someone who regularly mistreats them and they wear the same color coveralls, like blue coveralls, as they get older, they will start to distrust people who wear the color blue. They're very, very smart. They do hold a grudge. This is Shelby. She doesn't like me very much, and I don't know why, but I'm 14 now, and she's never outgrown that. So we have to work around that. I've had her since she was about 6 weeks old. She came from a starvation case, and she came with her mom. Her mom was a very good mom. She did not let anyone near Shelby, and I think that's where Shelby learned her distrust of people. Another quick question.
Why does she go to work?
I don't know. You know, she's very sassy. So sometimes when we get animals in and they're babies, they live a very good life and everyone is very nice to them. And they think everything they want all the time is how it has to go. And that's great, but there's 166 of them who all would have their own schedule. So we have to kind of do a group at a time. Shelby's just always been very particular.
Have you guys ever been around like more than one dog? Yeah. And have you ever noticed how some of these dogs have different personalities from each other? Like some are sweet, some are crazy, some are fun, some are tired, lazy, right? You've all seen that? Well, it's the same thing with these guys, right? They're all individuals. They all have their own personalities, and they all have their own motivations for everything. So Shelby can just not like Logan because she just doesn't like Logan. She happens to like other people. It's just Logan she doesn't like, just like we do it with people, right? You ever meet somebody you don't really like, or met someone you do like, and it's not really a good reason for it? Same thing with these guys.
So this is another important thing. Like I said, Shelby knows me. She doesn't care for me. And she can pick me out of a lineup of 60 people, and she's like, oh, I don't really care for that lady over there. So they absolutely can tell us apart, and they can tell each other apart. If you've been driving down the road and you've seen a field of cows and they're all just black, and you think, well, there's just a whole bunch of black cows. All those black cows know who each other is. They know who their mom is, they know who their friends are, they know who maybe the bully of the group is, if they've had one on a boy, and they know who to go to when they want affection. So they absolutely can tell each other apart.
Do you think you guys can tell the cows apart? No? Take a look at this.
There's Rosie again, Brownie again, there's Panda, and Luna.
Do they all look exactly alike?
Panda and Luna do look very similar, but you can tell the difference. Pick. She's also a little bit big. Yes, ma'am.
They look like different, but they have the same white and black.
Yeah, they do actually, in person, look really different, and they are both white and black. Good. Oh, here you go. This is something else really interesting about cows.
actually learned that from watching Brownie. Remember I was telling you about Brownie, who's super, super tall? He can do that. Really big bales of hay. And Shiloh will stand back and watch Brownie do it with the really big bales. And Shiloh's only about this tall, so he's not as big and strong. And so he'll try to do it with the big bale and it won't happen. So then he'll go over to the smaller bales and then he can do it.
Yeah, very nice. One of my favorite animals. Thanks. So we have a lot of pigs at the sanctuary, like a lot, sadly. I really love them. Pigs are super duper intelligent, and they also, just like humans, form really close bonds. So the mothers, actually, when allowed to live out in a normal environment, will make nests for their babies, and they will do that for that little baby's entire life as long as the mom is around. So this is Madam, and this is her daughter Tico, and that's her son Michael. And usually pigs all sleep with their noses touching. They're very affectionate with each other, but there's always the one oddball that Michael's that guy. He didn't get quite figured out for this photo, but they love to play. Yeah. Yep, that's Michael. He's just not all together there sometimes. But so Mom here at nighttime, especially when it's cold, she will walk through the whole paddock and pick grass and make this big giant nest, like a pod that they go into, and you can't see them anymore. They're just in there. And she will do that for the rest of her life. And then they will probably stay together. This is actually her children that she had, and they have another pig that we've had for a long, long time. His name is Will. And Will is adopted into this family. He's kind of the father figure, even though they just met him a couple years ago. Pig's dream. This is something that's really interesting we like to talk about. We think they like to dream about things that they love. So bananas especially. Every pig's favorite treat.
Every pig on the planet loves bananas.
It's a favorite.
Most also like elephants.
So scientists shown us that they experience REM sleep just like we do, so they have very similar sleep cycles, and that means that they dream in much the same way that humans do. So very interesting. They also greatly miss their friends and their family when they're separated. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Arthur and another pig named Old Lady. Arthur was the very first pig that we ever rescued back in 2003, and he grew up with some very well-intentioned people who unfortunately fed him so much that he couldn't walk. He was so big. And so we took him, put him on a diet, and the next pig that we rescued was Old Lady. And Arthur had never met another pig in his life. And he met Old Lady, and then they just became best friends. Unfortunately for Arthur, he was a young pig, and Old Lady was an old lady. And she ended up passing away a couple years into them knowing each other. And we thought we were going to lose Arthur. He didn't eat for about 3 weeks, and we had to take water to him and force it in his mouth and lay with him and just constantly reassure him that he was going to be okay. And he actually lived another 12 years after that, but was never quite the same. He never had another best friend like that. So they really, really formed very strong family bonds, and they'll make the family. Another very thing that we get to see a lot, they can learn to forgive us. So last year we took in 10 pigs from a cruelty case up north, and when we got them, it was a little dangerous. They all weighed about 600 pounds, and they hated people. And so when you would walk by the door of the stall, they would charge the doors, and they wanted to get to us. And so we knew it was going to take some time and a little bit of affection towards them, and just letting them kind of experience life in a different way. And now the main one, Rogue, actually will come up to anyone who works there and ask you to rub her tummy. Like, she will walk over to you and then just fall on the ground. She's like, you will rub my tummy. So they absolutely forgive us. This little guy here is Jamie, and this is Piggy Smalls, and both of them were born in industrial farms. So they both kind of experienced a very bad life before they came to us, and both of them are two sweethearts. If you come for a tour, you've probably met Jamie. Jamie's a little bit younger.
So pigs will have their own behavior, and they'll act a certain way, because that's what pigs do, especially boy pigs, right? And when Jamie was rescued, he was rescued with a handful of other male piglets. Some of them went to a different sanctuary, and Jamie and his two brothers came to our sanctuary. And as soon as we got them, once they went through the quarantine period, they went in and they said they lived with Piggy. okay? And we've had Piggy forever. We got Piggy when he was like 2 days old. He was like this big, now he's like this tall. So they learned how to act at the sanctuary from Piggy. He kind of taught them how to behave. We saw other pigs from the same place that Jamie and his brothers were rescued from, and they came to our farm for a little bit because they needed to get some medical treatment. And they were insane. You couldn't go in there with them. Like, they would run you over, they would try to fight you, and all of that. And the only difference between those pigs and Jamie and his brothers was Piggy Smalls. They learned how to behave from Piggy Smalls. So if you think about the kind of intelligence that comes with it, to be able to learn and teach how to act completely different is pretty cool.
Sure. Okay, turkeys. If you guys have ever seen a turkey, they're fabulous. There's a cute video in here you guys are going to love. Turkeys can live about 15 years. That's a really long time, and they get really, really good. So what we found is that when you take a turkey away, their little group really misses them. And the person who you're taking will tell you, hey, put me back with my family. This is a family group right here. This guy at the front, this is the boy. I'm going to teach you something how you can tell he's a boy. This thing on his chest right here that's black and looks kind of hairy is called a beard. And typically only boy turkeys have them, sometimes girl turkeys, but only a few. And also, the very popular turkey noise, gobble gobble, is only made by boy turkeys. Girls don't make that sound. So if you hear a turkey gobbling, that's a boy. They recognize each other by their voice. So just like us, if you hear someone in the other room, you know who that person is. You're like, oh, that's Tony over there. He's behind the door, but I still know that's him. Turkeys are able to do that same exact thing. Very, very smart. Unless they're distracted and they don't hear. So this, actually, are turkeys that we get. This is Ethel on the left. And she came to us from an industrial farm. So she is very prone to being overweight. So they are kept on a diet all year. We took one day. They get a day that we celebrate them that most people think of as turkeys in a different way. So on Thanksgiving, we actually make our turkeys a big giant feast, and they get to enjoy the day, and we celebrate them. That's what this photo is from. There's some turkeys standing on the table back there. So they love this thing. The one day they're not on the diet. When someone in their group passes, they miss that person. You will see them become depressed. They lay on the ground, they're not as fluffy because they like to show off and fluff up. And so we definitely see that. Kind of hit on this, they empathize, they have the ability to understand if someone else in their group is in pain or suffering. And so they will try to come to that turkey's aid, they will make the soothing sounds to them, so they definitely can understand that. This is also super fascinating. They understand and know an area about 1,000 acres, which is way bigger than this world is. They know where everything is. They know how to get to the food, they know where the water is, they know where the best spot to sleep is, and this is usually how they get there. So this is one of my favorite things turkeys do, which is run, because they look like little dinosaurs. They're not the best runners, for sure. But they can absolutely do some really cool things. They can fly a little bit. They're pretty fast, you know. Another bird that we have at the sanctuary is chicken. And chickens a lot of people don't appreciate them, but they're actually really smart. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about how smart they are. Roosters have a lot of different vocalizations, but one of their favorite ones that they do is called tidbitting. And it's this little sound they make usually when there's really good food around, and it lets the ladies know there's something really yummy to eat over here. But if he's feeling lonely or amorous, he will also make that sound when there's no food. So the girls come to him anyways. They're very smart. But usually he'll let them know, hey, there's something good to eat here. And the girls absolutely know. They also have calls for like their favorite hens. He's able to call one at a time. They know more than 100 faces. So in a big group of chickens, they definitely know each other. They're kind of like us. They have people that they really like and they're really close with these two girls here. And then when we introduce a new chicken, sometimes it takes a little bit because the chickens know she doesn't belong there, even if she looks just like everyone else in the group. They take their time to get to know her and decide if they like her and where she fits. So, definitely very smart, intelligent animals. They are able to do some really neat things. If you look up some videos online, there are videos out there of people teaching a chicken to peck at a picture. So they know if they see a picture of a chicken, a picture of a cow, a picture of a pig, they need to peck the chicken of a picture of a chicken. They also are able to understand that if you cover almost that entire photo and you only leave a little piece showing, that's still a picture of a chicken, which I know people can. So, so they're definitely intelligent. Tony's still on the jokes here. So, one thing that we really want to talk about is that when it comes to animals, we are more like them than we are different from them. Animals are, sweet and kind and gentle a lot of times, but they're also super individuals. So just like all of you in this room, there are people here who get along, people who don't get along. You can come visit and meet them and you can see me there. This is Nora, and she's loving the belly rub right now. And that's Patty over there. So, just a reminder that everyone is unique, and even animals, some of them have special needs, or you look at them and you think, oh, that guy looks a little bit different. He's just as unique as we are. That's Jamie again. You guys met him already, and Papa. And so we want to take your questions. Anyone want to ask questions? Yeah. Oh.
If you guys want to ask questions, Carl, can we do it like we normally do? Put your hand up. Mr. Carl's going to come to see if your question is relevant, and then if so, we'll have you come get
All questions are relevant.
No, somebody might ask you something about a tractor. You never know.
Some things, I know.
So if we're going to, Mr. Carl's going to go around, and if he, because we only can do so many questions, he'll have you come get in line. So just give us a second. So I know one of the things that you said, okay, you were talking about and I don't remember which animal it was at the time, but you were saying how they all have different personalities. So I have 3 dogs at home, and they all have totally different personalities. And one of them is super, super loving and just wants to love you every minute. And another one wants you to love her every minute. So both of these two, they want to be on top of a human, but they want it for different reasons. One, August, he wants to be on top of you because he loves you and he wants to just show you you are the best. And then June, she's going to be on top of you because she wants you to worship her because she's the best. Those two are really funny because they're both on top of a person, but they're on there for a totally different reason. And then we have April, who she's just like her own individual. She doesn't actually care as much about people as the other two do. But so many of you who have had experiences with dogs and cats, and what we just saw is that these cows and pigs and turkeys and sheep and goats, they're very much like our dogs and cats at home. We just don't get to have them in our house typically, but that's really cool. All right, so we've got a line here, so I'm going to let you guys go ahead.
Don't turkeys usually have better too?
Oh, that's a great question. So, they can. We have 2 girls named Lucy and Ethel who are all attitude all the time. Like, some people who work there Russian. But we also have ones who you sit down, they'll crawl in your lap and they want you to touch them. So, a little bit different, but
Honestly, if you've ever heard of a velociraptor, the dinosaur, they evolved directly into turkeys.
Quiet,
So,
everyone.
some of that attitude is literally based on the fact that we were dinosaurs as well.
yeah, that's a good question.
And the reason I remember that is because when my mom was young, she got chased down by a turkey.
It happens. Sometimes that's my normal existence. No, so we are talking about farm animals, we're talking about animals traditionally used in this country. However, we have dogs. We have one dog named Maggie who loves farm animals. So that's a great question. How do we get the animals was the question. So we get contacted by people all the time. Sometimes, in cases of our disabled animals, there are people, the animals born on their farm and they aren't able to take care of them. And sometimes we work with organizations who help animals, like Animal Control, Humane Society, to take animals from bad situations. They'll contact us.
So you guys remember Piggy Smalls? He came to us when he was like 2 days old because he got burnt and the farmer didn't want him anymore, so he sent him home with the kid who worked with him. And the kid, the mom was like, "You can't have the bag," so she called us. So that's how we ended up with Piggy Smalls. So it's all different kinds of ways that it's done.
Great question.
Do I know where we're going then? Yeah, we're going to the botanical garden.
So they live on average about 8 years, but we've had some girls that live to be about 10 or 11. So they can live a long time. About as long as a dog. Thank you.
I haven't seen them.
Good question. So, well, the question was, what's the first animal we got? We actually got 25 animals as the first animal altogether. So we helped a big rescue out of Maine. And so our first animals were 4 cows, pigs, some chickens, and little goats. All came at the same time. Very overwhelming.
How many animals did you rescue in a year?
Ooh, great question. In a year, it really depends. So we decide to rescue animals based on the resources that we have. How much space do we have? Some of it's based on the personalities we have. Right now, our cow group is pretty established. We don't really want to add new people in there. But we can rescue anywhere from, a small handful to, I think last year we rescued almost 40.
We have to say no a lot. So last year alone, we got calls to take in over 800 different animals. And like I told you earlier, we have 166 already, but taking care of them takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money, takes a lot of space, so we have to say no quite a bit because we've already made a commitment to the ones that we have.
What do pigs dream about?
Oh, I think mostly food. And I think, and also belly rubs, because that's their other favorite thing. So I choose to think they only have positive dreams and that they're, about
Esther the Wonder Pig? Oh, she is Esther the Wonder Pig. We'll be doing a live Skype with her and her family in a couple weeks. We're excited about that. I love her.
That's great.
I think Esther dreams about cupcakes. And her whole bedroom is stuffed with cupcakes. We do have horses. So we have 13 climbing right now. 5 of them are donkeys and the rest are horses. I like horses a lot, but I didn't actually know them until I came to St. Louis. I was kind of scared of them at first because they're really big and they run really fast. But we have horses. Lots of them are old.
Why do pigs go in mud?
That is a
Great question.
great question. You can get a gold star for that. Pigs go in mud because they can't sweat through anywhere except through the tip of their nose. So when it's hot outside, they get really, really hot, and the mud on them cools them down. The other reason they go in the mud is just like you and me, they sunburn in the sun. So the mud being on their skin protects their skin from the sun, they don't get sunburned. So we actually put sunscreen on all our pigs all year round, which is a whole major job. That's somebody's job for the day is to smear sunscreen all over them, but they get in the mud to protect.
But yeah, pigs actually have pretty much identical skin. It's just the only difference is they can't sweat.
No, that's another
Excellent question.
common question that we get. Yeah, so our question was, when our animals pass away, do we eat them? Nope, we don't. They get buried or cremated just like human family members or pets. So we put a lot of time and effort into them, and that's how we see them, is, equal to us.
How do you guys find the animals that you have in your shelter at the moment? Yeah, so
So, yeah, Yeah, we get contacted about them. We don't do a lot of going out looking for them because as Tony said, last year we got contacted about over 800 of them. So we get a lot of calls. We've been around for a long time, so people kind of know to contact us. And then the ones that we can't help, we do try to get into other shelters.
We get calls from individual people. We get calls from big organizations like Society and stuff like that. So it's kind of different, and we either get calls, emails, sometimes texts. So all different kinds of ways. Thank you for the questions.
What time do you feed your animals at?
Ooh, good question. What time do we get up to feed the animals? I am an early riser. I'm a morning person.
I am not.
So I get up like around 5 and have a little bit of quiet time. They, like us, like most people, like to get up with the sun. So we don't do a lot in the dark because they're sleeping. But the minute the sun comes up, they are ready to come out and have breakfast and a peanut butter sandwich and start the day. So depending on the time of year, they either get fed once a day or twice a day.
Also, a lot of our guys at night are very susceptible to predators. So a lot of our animals go up at night. So all of our birds go up at night. The sheep and the goats go up at night too. And sometimes, most times actually, to get the sheep and the goats to go in at night so that they're protected and safe from the predators, we often feed them at night, like right before the sun goes in.
That's a great question.
Do they get cold?
Yes. So most of the animals go into a barn at nighttime. The pigs don't. They like to sleep outside. They don't mind the cold. But when our animals get really old, like right now, I have a donkey named Ruth, who's, I don't know how old she is, really old, she's almost 17 left. We put blankets on them. So she has a blanket. She wears it all around. It's very snazzy. And she likes it now. When she first wore it, I think she really loved it because all the other donkeys were scared of it. So when she walked up to the food, they all left. And she was like, hey, I got a whole pile to myself. But we can blanket them. We also use straw and things like that for them to make a bed in.
And plus, when they, like with the pigs, when they lay down, like I showed earlier, they like lay together, and so there's a lot of body heat going on. A lot of chunk fins, so they can stay pretty warm all year round. Have any of our residents died from a predator? Yes. We had a very unfortunate accident not too long ago. Right after we moved to our new property. At our old property, we never had property predators, but at the new property, we didn't know, and we had to go to the bank. And so we were gone for like an hour. It was in the middle of the day. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The sun was up, everything. We came back, and a fox had gotten into the chicken yard and taken 14 chickens. Yeah. So then we had to bring them out of, thank you for your question. We had to bring them into the barn, make sure that they were safe going forward. Then we had to build a brand new fence for that was fox-proof. And it's like 7 feet tall, it's a 1.5 feet in the ground. It's this whole big crazy thing. What was that?
Oh, like an electric fence? Eventually, we probably build an electric fence there. So on the property we're on now, we have a family of foxes. There's at least 5 or 6 of them we've seen. And they don't come around too much, but we want to be sure if they do, they know to stay away. We've also seen coyotes and we've seen a panther. So we know what the,
Yeah, where are they at?
yeah, who knows? I am a very forgetful person, but I have never forgotten that because they don't let me. So
They're very vocal.
even if you're a little bit late, sometimes you'll get the reminder.
The cows especially will yell at you if you say too long.
And our house is right next to the house, so there's no sleeping in. Like when the sun comes up, they have what's at our house, look in our bedroom window, and start screaming. So you know, I've never forgotten. I forget a lot of things, but never do.
Never. Good question. That's a really good question. How much do they eat a day? Well, for cattle actually eat about 24 pounds of food in a day.
Per capita.
Per capita.
Yeah, horses is pretty similar. It's like 15, 16 pounds of dry matter a day. Our pigs, we go day 400 pounds of pig to feed. Yeah, so it's a lot. And everyone's on a pretty strict diet. So we actually hire in a nutritionist who comes to us 4 times a year, and he looks at what we're feeding them. We need to raise it, lower it, so they're getting proper nutrition. It's just like us, a lot of nutritional needs. But yeah, we go through like 9 big bales of hay a day and a couple of hundred pounds.
Excellent question. How much does a horse eat?
Yeah, like 15 to 16 pounds of food in a day.
They spend a lot of time grazing. Just head down, eating the grass, that kind of thing. But we also, like as they get older, we give them a special feed as well. But a lot of times they get hay and all that kind of stuff.
I love it.
Do we ever give away the animals if we don't want them?
Nope.
You.
We always want.
Yeah. That's why we have to say no a lot, is because we like to make sure that we have the animals for the rest of their lives. We made a commitment to take care of them forever.
Yep.
You know, kind of like their parents.
Okay.
How many animals have you lost over the years?
Ooh.
That's a good question. I think on our list we have between 60 and 70, so in 17 years. And sometimes we lose them really shortly after we rescue them. So a couple years ago we rescued a bunch of baby goats from a really bad place, and unfortunately the night they came, they were pushed on. So sometimes that's something that we have to deal with. We always do the best we can for them, but that is a reality that we face, is that we fall in love with them and then eventually they pass away. Thank you.
How long have we been working at this actually?
Oh, okay, so the sanctuary started in 2003 and we both started there in 2006. So how many years now? 14.
Both of us? Yeah, I mean, technically, I started volunteering there before she did.
Yeah, you brought me with them, so now I'm the boss.
But now she's in charge.
But thank you, thanks for the egg.
So how many people can you take at one time for a field trip there?
We've done tours of like, guided tours of up to 60, but we've had over 300 people in. So
you can have 300 people come in one trip? You can do, what would you do?
we would probably break it up into 2 different tour groups. So you could get one, I would get another.
And would there be interaction?
Yes.
He said one would be the fun group.
He's probably not wrong.
Smacking your husband.
Yeah, so all of our tours are interactive. So when you come to visit, you get to meet them up close and personal.
How many people would like to do something like that? Would you like to take a field trip over to the animal sanctuary? You can kind of get an idea of how many hands we have. All right? All right, well, we might try to arrange that so we can get everybody over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that would be really awesome. All right, that's cool. Okay, we'll make a plan to do that as a school together. Have you had a large school group come in?
So yeah, in the summertime we work.
When we came before, it was like a group of like 20. So
Yeah, in the summertime we work with 2 summer kids out of Orlando. So yeah, we do the one group we usually between 60 and 70 youth that come in. So yeah, we can do it.
All right, we're gonna do that. Yes, Henry.
What I do like volunteers.
Let's know if you'd be able to volunteer there.
So we do take volunteers. That's a great question. You would need your parent to be with you. But then absolutely, I would put you to work, Henry.
How old do they have to be a volunteer on their own there?
Usually if you're going to volunteer on your own, we want you to be able to drive yourself, so at least 16.
Okay. All right. Is that it for questions?
Oh, you have another one?
gonna do 2 more, that's it, okay? Here, come on.
Yes, some horses do sleep on the ground. So horses sleep a lot standing up. They don't lay down a lot, but sometimes they do lay down, and as they get older, they lay down to sleep a whole lot. So some of our old guys spend a lot of time sleeping on the ground. Do you have alpacas? We don't have alpacas. So we actually have a veterinarian on staff when we travel to other sanctuaries to help them. And we work with alpacas at a couple other places. And they're very interesting animals. I am not the best alpaca handler, so I will definitely have to brush up my skills before I rescue them.
Our vet actually said it's very.
Yes. Alpacas and emus they're a little bit intense. An alpaca is like a llama. So he's a little bit smaller and he has different ears. And when you make him mad, he screams. And that's why I have to work on handling skills. They just, like that, but really loud. It's terrible.
All right. Well, we're definitely going to plan a time where we can come out and visit Kindred Spirits. It's a wonderful place. I have not been to their new facility, but I was fortunate to attend your old facility and had a great time. It was very cold when we were there before. So the next time that I come, it has got to be warm. Because like on a day like today, I would be miserable being there. I would be so cold. And it was very cold the last time we were there. Scarves. I need to come when it's warm. So we're definitely going to plan that.
Perfect.
All right, can we please give them a big round of